This week we're looking at the question, can you lose your salvation? Can you do something that would cause your salvation to be lost or would cause Jesus to change his mind about you and take away your salvation? And what we've seen so far is there's a lot of scriptures in the New Testament that seem to just tell us that once you are in the hand of Jesus, once you have that salvation, nothing could take you out of his hand, nothing could take away that salvation. And the book of Romans says that God does not change his mind about those that he has given his grace to, and he doesn't take it away. And yet there are some scriptures that on the surface do seem to kind of run against that and maybe even contradict what Jesus said. In fact, there are some people who would take what the scripture we're going to look at today, which are also the words of Jesus, and say, well, this is proof that you can lose your salvation. This is running totally contradictory to what Jesus said earlier. So let's remember, Jesus said, once you have salvation, you are mine, and no one can take you out of my hand. He is saying you're secure forever. It's an eternal gift. And then later, Jesus, he is talking to a bunch of Jewish people, and in John 15, he says this, I'm a grapevine, I'm the true grapevine, and the Father, my Father, is the gardener. He cuts off every branch that does not produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do bear fruit, so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, and you are the branches. Those who remain in me, and I in them, will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. But if you remain in me, and my words remain in you, you may ask me for anything you want, and it will be granted. So a lot of people would say that Jesus is saying he's the vine, and all of his followers are the branches, and sometimes branches get cut off because they just stop bearing fruit. So if you, as a Jesus follower, stop bearing fruit, then the Father, who is the gardener, will come along and just pluck you off and throw you on a pile and then burn you. It seems to be saying that if you don't behave correctly, do what you're supposed to do, then the Father will prune the vine, cut you off, throw you away, and burn you. But that goes totally against what the scripture says, that God does not change his mind about those who he has given his salvation to. He doesn't take it away. That's Romans 11:28 and 29. So what is Jesus saying here? What's he actually saying? Well, it's important to know that Jesus is talking to Jewish people, and the context of this is very, very important. Israel in the Old Testament was called the vine, and it was supposed to be the fruit-producing image that Israel, as God's chosen people, would bear the fruit of God, that they would grow and they would be fruitful, and they would bless the world with the fruit that they would produce. Not literal fruit, but just the behavior, the blessings, the way they would treat their neighbors, the way they would treat the countries that surrounded them. That was the ideal, but it never happened. And so Jesus is now stepping in, and he's saying, remember your Old Testament where you were supposed to be the vine, and now Jesus is saying, I am the vine, I'm the true vine. And he's implying that since he's the vine, there is no way the vine will not produce fruit. And the branches that he's talking about, he seems to be talking about branches that appear to be part of the vine, but aren't really connected. And this happens all the time. If you know anything about raising vines and gardening and stuff like that, especially grapes, you know that there are fake vines that grow with the true vines. And this is what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about some vines that appear to be fruit vines, but they're not, they're weeds. Jesus used another example earlier about the 4 kinds of soil where the seeds are planted, and some grows and some doesn't, and some grows up to be like weeds, and you got to cut the weeds out. And so what I would say is, Jesus is saying basically what I said to begin this, the answer to this question, and that is, not all who appear to be saved are saved, and not all who appear to be lost or lost. Jesus is not saying here that if you don't behave correctly, we're taking away your salvation. What he's saying is that there are people who are close to the vine. There are people who look like the vine. There are people who are walking amongst us, living amongst us, and they look like they're Jesus followers, but there's no connection. There's no fruit because they are not connected. If they were connected, there would be fruit. And so not everybody who appears to be saved is saved. And so the question for all of us is, am I just putting on appearances, or am I connected? Do I just grow next to the vine, or am I attached to it? And it's a heart issue, and only you can say, only you know your heart. No one else knows your heart, just you and God. But you know if you're connected to the vine. You know if you have salvation. Later on, 1 John would tell us that he wrote everything he wrote so that you could know without a doubt that you belong to Jesus. And that's my prayer for you, that you would know without a doubt today that you belong to Jesus. And by the way, if you do, one, nothing could take you out of his hand, and two, you're connected to the vine, so you got to bear some fruit. The fruits of the Spirit. What are those? Check it out, find it, and bear it. See you later.